Thank you for joining. Today we welcome Tyler Hewitt, our Discovery Financial Advisor, who's joining us today to give us, our audience, tips on financial planning, from medical aid to life insurance and everything else in between. So we are hoping that Tyler can shed some light on ways to save money. So it's pertinent for salons, but also for any person really. So whether you're a salon or a stylist or work in any industry, this is personal and it helps every person. So thank you, Tyler.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ursula. Very excited to be here today. I think it's a great opportunity for your listeners. It's a great opportunity for myself. And yeah, just to prepare the audience, this is not a sales pitch. I'm not selling products, but rather looking to help people look at their portfolio and find ways to save money, especially during these current times that we find ourselves in.
Yeah. And speaking of this particular industry, which is the hair salon industry and the beauty salons, this is not new to you. So tell us about your experience in the salon industry in America.
Yeah, Ursula. So I actually used to au pair for a male stylist in San Jose, California. So I am quite familiar with this audience and can relate to this industry. And while I was there for just over 11 months. I got to know the industry a little bit, obviously working with my host dad. And I really experienced how cutthroat the industry is and how important it is to have the basics right, especially if, people are owning their own salons or renting out space to young enthusiastic individuals. And I think it just made me realize that a lot of effort goes into it. And a lot of effort should also go into budgeting on a monthly basis, because in the industry, you can't necessarily guarantee anything. So there can be a lot of uncertainty at times. So I think it's important to have this discussion. And I do feel like I can relate at least a little bit within the industry.
Well, I think that's actually great, because that is that you can share with our audience, because then you can relate. So,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you. I mean, I think it is important for us to chat about the current situation that hairstylists, well, not only hairstylists, but everyone is dealing with financially. And it's massively important to be able to have these open conversations about how we can deal with circumstances and what the best thing would be going forward. So, I mean, once again, I'm really excited and really happy to be here.
Yes, thank you.
And hopefully be able to inform people watching on how to tackle the situation in the best way.
So yes, so the salon show is designed to bring relevant and pertinent knowledge to our audience. So let's say a large section of our audience hasn't been earning for the last 4 months. Some people it's even longer than that. And now they're back in their salons or back at work, and they're getting their first paycheck that they've had in a long time, or maybe their second paycheck. And each person has certain responsibilities or overheads that they need to cover. They may have received COVID relief, or maybe not, or may have tapped into their savings, or worst case scenario, have incurred debt over this time. So what do they do, Tyler? What advice can you give them to kind of cut the coat according to their cloth? I mean, that is just to sustain themselves with their current earning, or only buy things that they have sufficient money to pay for.
Well, I mean, exactly. That's pretty much what I'm wanting to tackle in today's show. And I mean, if ever there was a time that one needed to be frugal with their money, it's now. Like you said, some people have gone 4 months without a paycheck, and all of a sudden now there's money coming back in, and it's, how do you address that? So, I mean, the first thing to look at for me would be asking yourself, what is the most important thing or things in your life right now, and then go from there. So, just starting off with the budget and listing your monthly expenses to give you a bit more of an idea about where your money is going and what you're actually gaining from those expenses. I mean, we all have bond payments or rent, maybe school fees, there's petrol, transport, there's groceries on a monthly basis, and then there's short and long-term insurance. We can't forget about those. And when you document your budget, you're ensuring that you're accountable for every cent that you spend, and therefore you can plan for your future. So, budgeting is not a complex thing if you just, do it in the basic way that you can. So it's taking your expenses that are guaranteed on a monthly basis, listing those, and once those are out of the way, it's then, okay, are there any ad hoc expenses that you might accrue? And is there any space, for you to maneuver with those?
Okay, so then that leads us to a question of what payments do you catch up on first? So what is a non-essential? So for example, if I'm not feeding my children, then a non-essential could be my rent on a temporary basis.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question, because when you have all of these expenses accruing, it's a bit like, you're looking all over the place. What do I deal with first? What do I tackle first? So, I mean, before I start cutting my cloth, to continue the metaphor, I would look at the expenses that I could cut. And these are things that you can do immediately. So look at prioritizing the essentials first, then assessing if I have enough bulk room to maneuver. I think in a day and age like today, it's very easy to get caught up in consumerism and becoming fixated on the wants rather than the needs.
Yeah.
I mean, economic way up, where we're looking at what we need versus what we want. And I would say that this isn't the time to get caught up on short-term pleasures, but rather this is the time to double down and set up the rest of your life, basically building a foundation. So like I said before, we have our fixed term expenses and intermittent or ad hoc expenses, but it's all about apportioning money wisely. So cutting back on non-essentials. Do you really need these new clothes or this new handbag, or do you need to go and get a new car, for instance? And I think many of the listeners would agree that Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither were their careers or opportunities. And it's important to note that it takes time to build these up, to put in the work and build up a foundation, especially if you're looking at your career starting off as a graduate new into the industry, and then looking at 10 years time. Now you own a salon and you've seen that progress over a 10-year period. It's very similar with your financial position and building that up over time. It's not just going to fix itself all at once. And then back to your question of like, what is a non-essential? In a certain instance, a non-essential could be someone's rent if they aren't able to feed their children. And these are difficult conversations that we would directly. So like the first financial crisis is compound interest and the cost of borrowing money, either from your financial institutions or even in worst case scenarios, a loan shark. They come for you, offering you this great, fantastic loan, but then, there's that compound interest that's going to accrue over time. So, I mean, in these there's dire consequences in these times for each financial decision that we make. And I think it's important for people just to address the interest rates. And that would be the first thing to focus on, because you don't want to be paying interest on your purchases, for the next year and the year after that, and just accruing that even more. So I would start looking at, can I afford to pay a small amount into high interest bearing accounts or credit immediately? So looking at eliminating that debt first, whether it's through installments that increase monthly. So if you start off by paying for certain debt, 1,000 Rand this month, maybe 1,200 Rand the next month, 1,500 Rand the following month. That way it's reducing the total time that you're going to have to be repaying these debts and being stuck in this continuous cycle.
I think that we're often afraid to speak to the banks and insurance companies, though, and phone our financial advisors and when the news is not favorable. So many people would rather bury their shame and avoid the difficult conversations because they are really hard. At the same time, you're on social media or wherever you're walking through shops, you might be walking through the shops, and there's all these nice goodies flashing themselves at you. When you're the person that needs to be speaking directly to these people to make arrangements, at least, how does one get about doing that?
Well, I mean, I want to help my clients build their financial lives until they're free from debt. I mean, the end goal is what we like to call financial freedom. So, I mean, I would say don't be afraid to speak to your bank or your financial advisor. I mean, I want nothing more than for my clients to feel at ease when asking these difficult questions, because it's affecting their financial position. And I like to think that the relationships that I build are built on trust and honesty. So ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for relief, from your banks or from your insurance companies, because there might be a possibility for you to get that relief. So don't limit yourself, have the conversation, ask for advice. And, we're in the age where information is readily available to everyone. So do your homework, look for answers online if you're too afraid to speak to someone first. And then once you have an idea and you feel a bit more comfortable and understanding, then, have that conversation with your financial advisor or banks or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because, I think when you cash flush, it is easy to ask for advice, but when you don't have money, it's to negotiate with, it is a far more difficult conversation and humiliating for some people who feel shame around it.
No, absolutely. I think this is our first mistake, is that we bury our head in the sand due to shame and don't take control of the conversation and the relationship with our financial institutions.
Okay, so you must have a high level of trust and empathy then with your clients, Tyler.
I would like to think so, Ursula. I mean, it's built over time, and my approach has always been to approach clients authentically. The scenario you gave me is someone has been employed or run their salon and never imagined that they would find themselves borrowing from family members, from financial institutions, or from a dodgy loan shark. They might have been furloughed, retrenched, or lost their salon. So it is important to understand that, from my point of view, to realize that not everyone is going to be flush and, have a lot of money in the bank to be able to afford these ad hoc expenses that might accrue up. So it's important for me just to get that trust and that understanding, and for people to realize that I'm here to help and help you get through the financial situation that you might find yourself in.
That is really good to know. So, but what would you suggest then they do, especially if they can't pay their staff and they're working, say, only 3 out of 5 days? I mean, how do they play catch up? How do any of us play catch up?
Well, Ursula, I think it's important to note that any small changes in your monthly expenses can make a difference, because those are going to build up over time. And whether or not you have discovery products, there are things that you can do on your own accord. I mean, for instance, if you stopped smoking during the lockdown, it's been 4 or 5 months, I can't remember, since they banned it. For instance, you could get if you carry that on for 12 months. Your life premiums could decrease. So that's, one small way to decrease your current existing policies. Maybe if you've gained weight over lockdown, you can lose it by, joining the online webinars that Vitality has, or Virgin Active has, or Planet Fitness has, because those are free webinars, and, at least you still feel involved.
It's funny you mentioned that. Just quickly to interject there. I was one of the people who picked up a lot of weight during lockdown, on top of weight that I shouldn't have been carrying. I'll be open and honest about it. And I have started a plan 3 weeks ago, and I've lost almost 6.5 kilos in 3 weeks. But that's because Susan has got such a good weight loss management. She's such a good weight loss management coach. So yeah,
no, absolutely.
I've still got aiming for my goal, but yes, I hear you. It's good to do this. So sorry to interrupt. You can carry on where you were.
No, not at all.
Losing weight will help you. A little help. Well, already I've come off 2 of my medications, and my blood pressure dropped back to normal.
Yeah,
It's sky high, and I didn't even know. So it's dropped back to normal. So there's going to be a chance where very soon I won't need to be on my blood pressure medication, or maybe even my cholesterol medication. That's a big saving.
Yeah, I mean, you've just sort of highlighted the impact that one small life change can make. Getting involved with one of Susan's programs, it's cost effective, it's affordable, and it's essentially leading you on the right path along the way, because you're going to cut costs on medication. In terms of Vitality, just to link the Vitality in with that, it can even save you money if you increase your Vitality status. So being healthier, going to the gym, getting those Vitality points, it's going to give you sort of discounts, but it's also going to make you feel good because you're getting rewarded for, continuously being active. So I mean, like something like saving as little as 600 Rand a month, on your life premiums, just because you're a healthier Vitality status, could be channeled into debt, and over a year you brought it down the interest. And I mean, if you take 600 Rand a month savings and take that over the course of a year, that's 7,200 Rand that you've saved in a year. So some people might say, well, that's only 7,200. I mean, I have all of these other expenses. But if I had to offer somebody 7,200 Rand today, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would gladly take it and say, that's great. Let me go and cover other expenses that I can. So Other things to look at, maybe close a store account, whether it's an Stuttgart's, Fashini, whatever it is. Pay your life insurance premium for the year, because that closed account is now money available to take care of your other expenses. Pay your credit card in full each month and begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because one thing that I sort of put emphasis on, a lot of people, when they get into these financial predicaments, is they get rid of their insurance products because they think, no, let's get those out of the way. But those are basically your major safety nets, because if anything was going to happen to you, then that burden is going to shift onto your family, and then that cycle just begins again. So I would say, do whatever you can to keep those, even if you reduce the amounts, keep those in place, and look at other ways at maybe saving on expenses.
And that's why it's so important, I think, to have the conversations with them, because they might be able to help out, giving you some grace on those payments. So thank you for those tangible solutions. Your lifestyle and your behavior can affect the finances. Can we talk a little bit about medical aids?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a conversation that I've had a lot recently, with, the lockdown, the economy, a lot of people getting retrenched or in their salary. But when we have those conversations, I realize a lot of people are paying, the wrong premiums for medical cover that they don't really use, or they don't know the full benefits that are on their plan, and it actually might not even be a good fit. So I urge people to reach out and ask me questions, ask your existing financial advisor questions, say, what is my medical aid actually covering, because most medical aids are going to give you unlimited hospital cover, but it's the other small details and other costs as well, where you might compare one of the top of the range plans to one of the middle of the range plans, and you might actually think, well, I'm more suited to the middle of the range plan. Why am I paying so much more? So, I mean, if I can help them save money, then I would gladly explain the fine print and ensure that they are sufficiently covered. But if you can move from paying 3,500 Rand on a plan to 2.5, once again, that's 1,000 Rand a month that you're saving, 12,000 Rand a year that you can apportion to other costs and other expenses. Maybe starting a savings account to make sure that you build that financial safety net, basically, or foundation going forward.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fantastic. So I'm the type of person that outsources decisions to people who are specialists, and I have a diet coach who I spoke about, Susan, that keeps my blood pressure down, and I have a financial advisor, somebody that I've known since I was actually 21 years old, and took out many policies many years ago, over all the years, and also went through difficulties and cancelled a whole lot of things at different times throughout my life. But she actually, my financial advisor actually told me, I got a phone call from her out of the blue last year sometime to say that some of my life things had come to fruition, which I didn't even know was still hanging around. And so I had some money sitting there, which was literally like manna from heaven. It literally was an answer to prayer. So what can people do to find out that kind of information?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've given quite a prudent example there. A lot of people, will take out policies or savings plans when they're young, in their 20s, their early 20s, and then fast track 15, 20 years down the line, and you look back and, you've forgotten about it. You took out this policy when you were 20 years old, and all of a sudden, like you said, you get a call from a financial advisor who's, really nice to you, saying that, listen, you actually have this lump sum of money sitting here that's been accrued. Do you even remember that you took it out? So it's always important. I mean, a lot of people have financial advisors, but the financial advisors kind of sign you up, do what they want to do, and then, they move on. And then all of a sudden you're forgotten about.
I had a great relationship with her, so that was very helpful.
I think it's important to keep up to date with your financial advisor and speak to them and say, listen, how's my investments tracking? Has it grown? How much is in there at the moment? And when I have conversations with people, we use what's called Astute. It's a platform where, obviously I get my clients' consent. And, once we go through that, it allows me to see what existing policies that they might have. And often we'll have a second meeting with a client and I'll say, listen, you actually have this amount of money sitting in this X account and this Y account. And they go, oh, wow, I thought I only had, a retirement annuity through X company. So it's important to know what policies you're paying for, because that's another way to reduce those expenses. You might have 3-4 life policies, but you think you only have one, but that's more money that's just being deducted off your account. So yeah, it's always important to speak to people and to try and understand what you actually have. And then, once we find that out, then we look at sort of 3 other steps. Number one, we're looking at your short-term insurance. It's called short-term insurance for a reason. It's in the short term. It gives you the ability to chop and change, find the right price, find the right benefits. Are you getting the most out of your short-term insurance? Going back to asking for relief, is your insurance company offering some sort of relief during this time? I know with Discovery, we have a 25% cashback if you drive less than 500 Ks a month. So that's 25% of your premiums that you're getting back for the rest of the year until December. And that's why it's important to review that short-term insurance and constantly check it every 6 months. Am I getting the right cover for what I'm paying? So like I said, once you give your consent, we go and we assess that. And then, possibly you get a reduction on your life policy premiums. You get more vitality points if you've changed your behavior, if you followed a healthier lifestyle, lost weight, given up smoking or drinking. So these are all ways that we look at trying to reduce basic costs that in the long run, if you do 3 or 4 of these things, then you could possibly be saving 2,500, 3,000 Rand a month.
Well, I think that's really brilliant, and that's really tangible information that can be used. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Absolutely. And in closing, I just want people to know about the tax benefits that come with taking out a retirement annuity. The government's incentivized people to start saving for retirement because, sadly, South Africans, only 6% of South Africans can afford to retire, with the same standard of living. So, I'd be happy to explain to the audience, anyone who has questions, how they can get control of their finances and save money through retirement savings as well.
Okay, so we'll tag you in this Zoom meeting when we post it onto the Hairstyle South Africa group. But if people want to email you directly, can they do that?
Absolutely. People can email me, they can phone me, they can WhatsApp.
What is your email address?
So my email address is Tyler, Tyler, .Hewitt, HEWITT, @dfa.discovery.co.za.
Okay, fantastic. So I think you're really wise beyond your years, Tyler, and very authentic, and you've given my audience lots of solutions, and I'm sure they're feeling more courageous and are ready to have those difficult conversations. So we really appreciate your advice.
I hope so, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, and hopefully we can get some answers if people have got any other questions that we can find out in the comments. And if we need to have you back on another time, it'll be with absolute pleasure. And we can talk more in depth on any particular, any other situations. It would be wonderful.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back, answer any questions if there are.
Thank you so much for being on the Ursula Brett Show. I kind of froze on the side, so I'm going to cut off and say thank you so much, Tyler. Thank you, audience.
Thanks, everyone.